Welcome to the Tea Grannies. I'm Elise.
And I'm Maria. Today we're here to chat about goal setting, so pour yourself a cup of tea and let's get started.
Prologue. Briar. 8 years old. How can something so lovely yet haunting exist in a world of tears and pain? I can't tear my eyes away from the towering white statue before me. His arms stretch upward towards the sky, as if reaching for something precious, afraid it might slip away. His wings are spread out wide, majestic and intimidating. It is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, and I don't even know what it is. I feel soft, long fingers wrap around my wrist, preventing me from walking toward the beautiful statue. I can't help it. It's calling me. I turn to Amora and give her a sheepish grin. My parents have hired multiple nannies since I was born, but Amora is the one who sticks, because she is my favorite. She's the only one who plays with me, never screams at me, and always takes care of me. I spend more time with her than with my parents. She doesn't know this, but sometimes I wish she were my mom. Even though she is way older than me, she's my best friend. Sorry, I grin at her scowl. You can't keep wandering off, my darling. If you want to stop to look at something, you let me know. She reprimands me with a sigh. I nod before turning my attention back to the statue. Who is he, Amora? He's so pretty. Why, it's an angel, Amora says with a small smile. Some people believe angels are extraordinary beings, sent by a powerful force to watch over us and keep us safe. So, they're here to protect us? I ask, furrowing my brows as I approach the angel statue. Amora nods and looks around. She spots a bush with white flowers and plucks one before returning to my side. She smiles and gives me the flower. I stare at the flower and then at her. I blink. What am I supposed to do with this? All right. So for my feedback today, I wanted to start with just a note about the imagery. I think the opening of this piece is very striking, and I really love the visual of the angel statue reaching toward the sky, framed by its wings. I found that this painted that image into my mind super clearly with just a few sentences, which works really well. And this, I would say that's exactly what I'm looking for in an opening to a scene when I give someone the feedback of anchor me in the setting, ground me in the scene with the first couple of lines. This does that really, really nicely with just that initial visual. I think I could use more about the environment around the statue. We don't quite get as much. And maybe some sensory detail would help liven that up of what's the weather like? And they're outside, so what time of year is it? And you don't need to go into in-depth detail about that, but just some a quick line about that, something about how the air feels on the protagonist's skin would be enough to do it and just ground you in the scene that much more. Visually, striking, stunning. On the sensory side, could add a bit more and it would just liven it up, punch it up, give you that extra dimension that I think you might find really helpful for readers. And then the rest of my feedback, I don't have a whole lot, and part of that is because of how this is structured, I think. So the prologue doesn't tell us much. We know that we're reading from the perspective of an 8-year-old girl to start, but her vocabulary feels much older than that. So I'm not sure if that's an intentional thing, and we're just this is a flashback and we'll read from her when she's older in the next chapter or something like that. Or maybe some revisions need to be made here so that the character's voice is age appropriate. I'm not sure. I was intrigued by her relationship with the nanny and whether that hints at a negative or abusive relationship with her parents. I have a note that this sounds like trauma. I'm curious about this. I have that kind of highlighted in the text when she starts talking about her home life. And if it's not, like really abusive, it's definitely neglectful if she's been bouncing around from nanny to nanny so much. So there was some intrigue there. Other than that, I didn't find a whole lot that drew me in and made me curious. And this, of course, this is just a first page, so we have limited context. Maybe I would get it in the next paragraph and that would be enough. Like, that would be fine. So I don't want to make too many assumptions. We don't have the teaser copy from the back of the book or anything. That might give me enough as well. But with just this page, my sense is that this isn't enough for a start. We need something more. Maybe the prologue is unnecessary. I'm always going to say that when I see the word prologue, so don't take it personally. Maybe the prologue is necessary, but we need the context for why. Otherwise, start in chapter 1 and keep going from there. And I'm assuming that this protagonist is older for the body of the story. So my instinct would be start with the age that they are. Slip this in as a flashback if it's really relevant. Because essentially what I'm missing right now is what's the point of this scene? Where is this story headed? What kind of genre am I in? And what key curiosity is about to unfold? I feel like those need to be answered within the first 2 pages, or at least hinted at. And so, like, if the statue came out and said something to the girl or something like that, I'd be hooked. Like, it's like talking statues. Okay, I'm in. But I need something more than this, kind of sweet relationship between a girl and her nanny, because that doesn't tell me enough to keep me really intrigued. But again, if there's anything to feel really confident in for this author, it is the visual imagery of that statue. That is really well done. And like I said, some sensory detail would just liven that up even more. So that's a spot that I would not recommend spending too much time on, because you're already doing really well there. So focus on the things that are missing. But that's it from me.
Well, it's a beautiful introduction. I think that kind of goes without saying. And I thought there's a few emotional beats here and there that were really well done. I especially liked, how can something so lovely yet haunting exist in a world of tears and pain? That's gorgeous writing. Great. And the beat about her wishing her nanny was her mom gives a lot of insight as well. So yeah, feeling the trauma. Mm-hmm. But yes, I also agree with Elise that the voice is too mature for an 8-year-old character. I see this a lot with writing, because I think we forget what it's like to be that age. Our brains have developed so much further past that. But I tell you, hang out with my 7-year-old nephew and no, that's not going to work.
They see the world a bit differently than we do.
They do. Yeah. They do. And the trauma that you feel as an adult, your childhood trauma, how it comes up as an adult is not how it felt at the time, mm-hmm. right? You can kind of guess and but it's more about how it impacted your life. So mm-hmm. at the time, an 8-year-old probably doesn't have a grasp on the world being full of tears and pain quite yet, unless they're going through some seriously traumatic stuff, which could be what this is about. Again, we don't have the back cover copy. So I guess may depend on that, but I still think that it's a little bit too mature, even if the character's been through a lot. And I'm not sure a prologue is necessary. I think we kind of feel the same way about prologues. My advice would be to write from chapter 1 on. And if you still think you need a prologue, then you can add it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you start there, a lot of the time people start their story in the wrong place. Mm-hmm. And we talk about this a lot on first pages, because mm-hmm. we're we're in the scene and the writing's great and we're learning about the character, but nothing happens.
Yeah.
There's no inciting incident coming. We can't feel any anticipation for something coming yet. So I think stuff like this particular scene would be a great, a flashback, or if the book is from the adult's perspective, then this would be a great reflection scene, or a storytelling scene to tell mm-hmm. someone about it. I think that would give it actually a lot more punch as well, than as a memory or as a flashback, than as the prologue, because we're not invested in the character yet. I think if you become invested in the adult character and then you get the flashback of them as a child, it hurts a lot more. Yeah. And I mean, not saying you want to inflict a ton of pain, but you do want to inflict some pain. It's writing. It's a book.
Yep.
So yeah, but the things that really stood out to me that were so good were like the language and the imagery and everything like that. I really enjoyed that. And there's a couple spots. I just want to comment. There's one part here where the nanny calls her my darling, and I think that's probably a good place for your main character's name. Like, what a great spot to give us the name. And we've got the nanny's name, and it gets used a few times, but the kid is nameless so far. So I think that would be a great spot. So easy too to fix that. And I did also want to say,
it does say Briar, like it says prologue.
Briar at the very top.
But I think your comment still stands.
Yeah.
Put Briar in the dialogue, and then you don't need it there at the top.
Yeah, and I will also tell people, if you put like your character's name at the top, like under the chapter heading, like I don't know, I don't really look at that when I'm reading, when I'm on a roll. I just, maybe other people do.
Maybe I do the same thing.
I just jump right in, and I'm like, I'll figure it out.
No, I'm just, as you're saying that, I'm looking at it thinking like, yeah, you could work the first name in really easily. And then the only thing that makes me hesitate on that is like, they do have 8 years old because they're trying to give the age, but she's with her nanny. She wouldn't be with her nanny if she was 15. So we know that she's a kid. And I would recommend maybe finding a way to work that into the story, because like there are people that read and really carefully see the headers and retain that information. But I find even if I see them, I forget when I'm halfway through the chapter. Like if it's a multi-POV thing, I forget whose POV I'm reading from if it's not distinct enough. Your story should be distinct enough to stand without the headings if it has to, in my opinion, if possible. So if you can work those details in, I think it's worth doing.
Yeah, and it's just like a bit like this comes in with editing. Like you're trying to, intensify things and like build things up. So like, you know, at the beginning when you're writing your first draft, you're like, hey, Briar, she's 8 years old. Here's my chapter. But for the reader, like we want to be absorbed and get that information. So I think that's something, maybe some people don't feel that way, but I feel like a lot of readers feel that way because we want to be, you know, it's escapism a lot of the time. And I like that. My other comment was, maybe this isn't a huge deal, but I liked it. That the nanny says some people believe angels are blah, blah, blah. I like that it wasn't a black and white blanket statement. Like everybody thinks this. So it kind of gives me a sense that we're in like the modern world. With like a very, you know, like a more progressive type of nanny, and she's a good influence. That's kind of how I take it. She doesn't tell her what to believe or do, and I do like that. It was just a little aside that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, that makes me curious, and I want to start theorizing, like as a fan might theorize over something out of that.
Yeah, like are the angels actually real?
And does the nanny believe it? But she's not allowed to say that, so she's saying some to be like, and that's interesting.
You know, I think actually after we do an episode and we do a first page, the writers should really have to send us like a little back cover copy.
Tell us, were we right?
Okay,
I would love that.
You know, we want to read the whole thing eventually, but
I mean, we could request that when we send the comments.
Yeah, we should start doing this. Can you please send me like a little synopsis?
I want to know.
Like, I need to know what's happening.
Yeah.
But anyway, as always, great job, and thank you for submitting. So goal setting and why it's important. Feels pretty straightforward, but I feel like we'll go over it anyways, just in case you're like, why do I need to make goals? Well, keeps you focused on your upcoming goals and plans in life. It helps you stay on task instead of just letting life drive you in whatever direction it's going. I think we've all been there. And you won't wake up in 5 years wondering where all that time went that you were going to work on your book.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. That's the main one. That's the one that people are like, I meant to do that, but like life got busy and then they didn't do it. So that's why goals are really important.
If you don't set concrete goals, then the time will just pass and you'll wonder where it went. Yeah. Yeah, I think based on how we've talked about this episode leading up to it, it feels like we're going to be talking about like how do you set yourself up for success in how you think about your writing. That's how I find goal setting helpful for me in a writing capacity. I know a lot of people can be like, why do I have to set goals? That like I just want to like discovery writers unite. I just want to fly by the seat of my pants. What do you mean there has to be structure? How dare you do this to me? And as two fellow discovery writers, we're here to tell you that we find it really, really, really helpful. So there's something to that.
You can discovery write your way through your first draft and everything. But when it comes to actually completing the goals of like getting your book finished and then edited and then published or whatever your goal is for it, you do have to like actually think about it. Yeah. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah. Writing is writing, but the rest of like publishing is a business. And that doesn't happen by accident, which unless you have a whole bunch of money, but
it's different. You know, it's not like a regular job either where you have someone guiding your progress and your output. Like if you're going to write, you're guiding your own progress and output. Yeah. And that's hard, I think, even for people that are good at it, can be challenging. And that's always been a thing for me. It's easier for me. I could set a goal to do literally anything else because my creative goals scare me the most. And so since setting goals, I've actually been like hitting milestones with that stuff that I couldn't before because I would just be like paralyzed by like the fear.
Yeah. That's a really
but we won't get into that today.
You mean another episode? We won't turn this one into a therapy session?
No, not today. Not today. So goal setting for writers. I mean, there's different ways to do this. What works for you might not work for others. I find it's kind of helpful for me to apply the same things I would put towards like my writing. That seems to help me, probably because it's familiar. So if you have a familiar structure, that's a good start. But publishing is a long process. So if that's your goal, you know, be prepared for that. But it also means that a lot of people want to rush their work to get it out there. Rushing your manuscript is the worst thing you can do. Sloppy mistakes get made, plot holes get missed, main character's hair color keeps changing in every chapter. You know, you don't want to do that. It's also very easy, like I said, to get caught up in our day-to-day life. And for most of us, like writing's a passion project. Like we're not making money at this, right? So it's kind of hard to motivate yourself to do it when life is kind of messing you up. So then we get into writing a book and publishing a book have significant number of steps in the process, and those processes are different. Like Elise said, writing is writing and publishing is a business. So to produce your best work, you need to prepare yourself to complete each step to the best of your ability, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Just throwing that out there. Do as I say, not as I do, kind of thing. And writing a good book does require multiple rounds of drafting and editing and feedback. So tracking your progress doesn't just help you stay on track, it helps you see how far you've come.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I know tracking like the different rounds of drafts can be challenging. It's like, at what point am I doing a whole new draft? As opposed
I don't track those. We don't talk about how many drafts there are.
Just revisions.
Yeah. That no one needs to know that.
But for yourself, like you're saying, I find it helpful in my own like file storage system. If I'm starting a pretty large edit that is going to impact the overall story quite a bit, I'll probably like copy the document, start working in the new copy, and name it the next draft. And then I know, like, I have changed this significantly in some way from this draft to the next. And that helps me feel like I am doing my due diligence. And I am, like you said, doing those multiple rounds. Because I think I used to get stuck on that like, well, I've only done so many drafts and that can't possibly be enough. So-and-so took this many drafts. And like everyone's process is different, so we can't put a number on how many drafts it'll take you. More than one?
Yeah, definitely more than one.
Probably more than two.
I would say the average has got to be between like 3 and 10.
I was going to say 3 is kind of my instinctual minimum. And that even feels low. But I know I have certain drafts where it's like after draft 3, because of how much workshopping and smaller things I've done and how much time I've taken, it feels like draft 3 is pretty polished. And and that could be, ready for more eyes on it or something. So yeah, tracking your progress is really important to see how far you've come. I really like that that idea. That's pretty great. My thoughts when I came to this section of the episode were around publishing specifically. So not everyone's goal is to be published if they're a writer, and that's just fine. You don't have to want to be published in order to consider yourself a writer or an author or any of those things. Writing can be just for you. It can be just for you and your bestie. It can be just for your bestie if you really want, but I hope it's also for you because it takes a lot of time, so you better enjoy it. But publishing, a lot of us want to be published, whether that's self-published or traditionally published. And I'm going to talk specifically about traditional publishing because that is where I find people's goals get fuzzy or interesting, because publishing can feel like such a lottery draw or just like downright impossible sometimes. So like, I'm never going to get anywhere with this. There's too many competing voices, and it's just too hard to break out of the mold and get somewhere. So I know, especially if you've queried a few times or for a while and you feel like you're getting nowhere, it can be very discouraging. And what I've found is that setting like realistic, measurable goals that you can work toward, reevaluate, and check off along the way can break the process down into something that's practical and manageable and measurable so that you can be more realistic with yourself about how things are going. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on that because I think we underestimate the power of this. The key for writers, I think, is the realistic piece to goal setting. I've seen a lot of authors on social media announce kind of their New Year's resolutions for the year. And the main one that I've seen quite a bit is like, my goal is to get published this year. And they're talking about traditional publishing, not self-publishing. Which unfortunately is a process that we often have little to no control over. So by definition, that's not really a realistic goal because you can't actually achieve it on your own. So by doing that, you're setting up your big goal for the year. You're setting yourself up for failure or for disappointment because it's so largely out of your hands, right? You can't control whether an agent offers you representation. You can't control whether a publisher offers you a book deal. That's completely out of your hands. Like, you can do your due diligence to make your book the best it can be and send it out. And that's the end. That's like the end of what you have control over. And so I'll give an example of like what I would consider a realistic goal, because I think this matters a lot. And I see a lot of people getting discouraged at like, well, I said my goal was to get published this year and I didn't do it again. Maybe I've done that for the last 3 years and it just hasn't happened. And like start questioning, like, am I even a good writer? I mean, it's been this long and I've kept saying I'm going to do this and I can't seem to get it. So there must be something wrong with me or something I'm not doing right. And that's not true at all, probably. Because we've said like querying is really, really hard. And most rejections seem to be subjective in nature. Nothing against the people that are saying no because they don't like vibe with the book. If they don't vibe with the book, they don't need to represent you. That wouldn't be a good partnership anyways. But it is largely subjective. It's not because your writing isn't good. It's not because your product isn't polished. It's because it just doesn't fit the person. And you can't really set goals around that. So what's a realistic goal then? I would say like a realistic goal is I'm going to query X number of agents by the end of this year, or I'm going to reach out to this many small presses directly by the end of this year. Those are things you can control. You can send out the contact. You have no control over what comes back to you. So my recommendation is don't set a goal that you can't even achieve with your own resources. And in our next section, we're going to talk about like methods for goal setting. So I just want to step back a little bit and say, like, this isn't to say that traditional publishing isn't something you should want or aim for. Like, that's still, I want that. Maria wants that. We've talked about wanting that. Like, it's a desire that we have. And that's the key for me. Like, I would say that's a desire. It's not a goal. And maybe that's splitting hairs for some people, and some people see that as the same thing. For me personally, this kind of thinking has really helped me to keep my writing going, to keep me pushing through query rejections and other disappointments. Because then I can check in with myself and be like, am I still writing? Yes. Am I still enjoying writing? Yes. Am I still allowing myself breaks so that I'm not writing all the time? Yes. And if that's all true, then I'm still succeeding. And that's what matters to me. Like, regardless of whether I'm published or not, I'm still succeeding at my goals. And maybe eventually, like, I no longer want to do this. I'm not getting published. I'm not seeing the result, the desire that I want come to fruition. And I reevaluate and I decide that, like, this isn't for me anymore. And that's fine to do along the way. But I think you're going to get to that conclusion a lot faster, unfortunately, if you start out with, like, this big unrealized dream that you only have marginal control over. And that's my soapbox, and I will step down from it now so we can move on from the episode. But
I feel like that's good life advice. Like, don't, you can say something, you want something, you desire that thing, but you can't say for sure you can get it if it's not up to you if you get it. That's a good one. Therapist elite.
I can feel my brain going into, like, real life examples. I'm gonna shut my mouth and not say what I'm thinking right now.
We'll share it for the gab after.
Yeah.
So we'll get into a little bit methods for goal setting. And I'll be totally clear with you guys. Stole some of this from my sports psychology workshops I've done for writing, because a lot of it is applicable.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of writing is also a mental game. Majority of it is, unless you get that carpal tunnel, right? So I think being on top of your goals and your expectations for yourself is very important. So main thing I would say is set your big goal. So once you've set your big goal, then you can work backwards and break it into smaller steps. And I would say to break it into 3 steps the first time you do this, because each step is still going to have steps. But, like, let's not spiral about this. Okay. This is your big picture goal setting. Okay. So your goal, say, is to publish your book, and you want to try traditional publishing first. That's your goal. So your steps would look something like edit your manuscript, prepare a query package, which would include, like, your synopsis, query letter, whatever, and query 30 agents. That's how you can get as close as you can to that goal, because, like, again, it's up to the agent to sign you. So each of these steps can be broken down into something that's both tangible and actionable. So how would you do it? Taking the time to learn what you need to do to reach the goal is important before you get discouraged by how far away and how big that seems. Once you break it down, it's not as scary as it seems. And the next thing, similar to what Elise is talking about, consider what's in your control and what isn't.
Yeah.
So an example of things that are in your control are showing up for your writing time, not staying on your phone the whole time, your effort, your preparation, your attitude, even things like making sure you ate breakfast and you went for a walk, like anything, all of those things are in your control. Things that are out of your control, other people's expectations. Hammer that one home for everybody, including me. Unplanned life events. I mean, shit happens, right? Sometimes it can't be helped. There's lots of other things that are out of your control. But I think not letting yourself be too discouraged by that is important. It's hard. And the next part of setting goals is confronting your comfort zone. So say you want to publish your book, but you're real terrified of anybody reading your work. And you're probably, if you're laughing right now, I just want you to know that was me. So speaking from experience. So to make this doable for you, try sending out a chapter of your book to, like, a friend or a family or a writing buddy, someone who knows that you're anxious and that you've asked for gentle feedback for the first time.
And that you feel safe and confident that they will abide by that.
Yes. Yeah. Don't send it to, like, your brother or something, because they're not going to say anything nice.
Unless your brother will be nice.
Yeah. And with every baby step out of your comfort zone, you're increasing your confidence and also your resilience. And that will help you, because no matter what you do in writing, there's going to be rejection, and people won't like your work, or people won't get it, or whatever. Someone will be like, I stopped reading it because I found a typo on page 200 out of page 250. Like, you can't control that.
No.
Right?
Sure.
But the more comfortable you get with hearing these things, the better you're going to do. There's a few other methods to plan your goals. This one that I was just talking about, I don't even know what to call this one. The basic goal setting. I have no idea. Pick your big goal, break it down into 3 steps, and then you're going to break each of those steps down into the steps that you need to take.
Yeah.
There's also a few other ways to do this. Like we've talked about 12-week plans before, which are super great, very helpful. There's another one kind of going around, which maybe isn't just for goal setting. It could be, you can apply this to life too, where you write 100 or more things you want to do with no time frame. It's not like within the next year I need to do these 100 things. So write down all the things you want to do. They can be big, they can be small, and then you check in with it once in a while and see where you're at. You do monthly goals and you do a weekly check-in. Maybe you have an accountability buddy. Maybe you have multiple calendars. Raising my hand right now. Whatever organization strategies work for you so that you can keep on track with your goals, because I think they're a little like New Year's resolutions. Everyone's like, here's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. Except by March, you've kind of already forgotten about 2 and 3.
Yep.
And 1's not looking so good either. Right? So like, that's why you do have to sit down and make a point and then check in with yourself regularly to see where you're at.
Yeah. I've tried to brainstorm a few other methods. The 12-week plan that Maria mentioned is a favorite of mine as well. And I'll go over that in a little bit more detail, but it's just like really practical. You can find resources about it. It's online. It's a known one. So we're not taking credit for it. We didn't invent it. We credit Eileen Cook with telling us about it. We've had her on the show before. She's really great for resources like that. So some of the other things I have are like vision boards, which are kind of like mood boards for your life goals. Maria has done one before. She said it was helpful. I have never done one before, but have found it very interesting, and I would like to when I'm done school. And the other one I thought that like this might be way more in depth than some people want, but talking to like a life coach or a career coach or a counselor about what you want, what your values are as a person, why you want things. It gets really meta. It gets like really deep into your philosophy a little bit, which again, some people can find that like just too much. I find that really interesting. I find making the connections between those things and my writing really fascinating and really valuable. I get to understand why I do what I do, why I focus on what I want to focus on, how I feel about it, and I really enjoy investigating that. And I find it just helps me stay motivated, and I keep coming back to the things that I want because I understand what I'm trying to accomplish and like, oh, this checks that box for me. This like makes me feel good in that way that I really value. And I find those revelations really important. And then the last one that I wanted to mention, which I actually just thought of on the spot. I don't know why it's coming to me right now because I do this every year. I have done it every year since COVID, I think. I don't know when I started doing it exactly. But I have like a writing tablet with a bunch of different notes on it. And I have one note that is just like my year by year goal list, essentially. So at the start of the year, or at the end of a year, I start one page that is a list of all the things I would like to accomplish. And it's not like I want to do this year. I don't set a timeline on them. I don't set any, I'm going to accomplish this by September, nothing like that. It's just like, these are things I want to do. I don't know if I can do them all. Some of them are definitely a pipe dream. Some of them I might not be able to afford to do. I know I won't have time for all of them, but I just write them all down so that I remember like, oh, that's something that I wanted to do. Maybe I have time now. And I keep that list going and I move it from year to year. I check off the things that I get. Every year I also start a second page that is, what did I accomplish this year? And that list might look really different from what I intended or wanted to do. And that's always really interesting of like, wow, I did so much. And it makes me feel way less bad about the things I didn't do that I said I wanted to do. Because it's like, well, no wonder I didn't do them. I was doing all this other, like, damn amazing stuff. So I find that really cool just to compare, like, here's what I wanted to do at the beginning of the year. I get to the end of the year. Here's all the things I accomplished, listed by month or however you want to track it. But comparing those two lists, like, what did I accomplish that I wanted to? What am I carrying over into the next year? Here's some other things. Do I still want to do those things? If I don't, I won't write them down. But oftentimes I move them to the next year and put a little like note beside it if I want to bump that up in my priorities, whatever. But yeah, I have those two pages. And then I also break my year out but month to month. For things like, I know I want to accomplish these things this year, and I try to be selective. Or like, I know I'm going to be in school, so I'll kind of block out the months that I'm going to be in school and say like, I'm doing this many classes and I think I'll have time for this many other things. What do I want to fill that space with? Whether it's work or a writing project. Podcasting is kind of just on there at this point. But yeah, I find that like every year, around the new year, whether it's before the new year rolls over or like right after or a few weeks in, doesn't matter. You can do it in June. Like, I don't fucking care. No one cares. There's no timeline on this for you. Right? No one cares.
That's some good life advice too, is like, we think people care a lot more than they do.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like that's the other thing where you're like, oh, people will think it's silly if I'm doing this. Who cares?
Who cares? No.
Like, do you care about all the things that they think are silly?
Yeah, like, no, exactly. People think it's silly that I'm writing books about, dragons and shit. So
I know.
But
like,
I think that's great.
Like, cannot fathom that fantasy books are interesting. Like, it's fake. Like, it's not real. Like, he cannot fathom. But he'll read like nonfiction.
Yep.
And I'm like,
well,
like that. I mean, you're weird, but that's fine. You do you. Like, clearly never recommending books to this guy. But sorry, backtracking a little bit to the coach counseling thing. So I did work with a coach at one point. It was like 9 years ago now. Woo, long time ago. But it was extremely helpful. And that was actually where I started to make goals for myself.
Okay.
And that those sessions really helped me, because this is what got me back into writing, actually. Because when we were having the sessions, he was like, well, like, what do you like want? Like, what's something you've always wanted to do? And I was like, well, I've always wanted to be an author. And he's like, okay, well, like, how would you do that? And I was like, I have to write first, wouldn't I?
What a ripoff.
Yeah, because, I'd abandoned writing for, much chaos in my life at the time. So it was, it's nice to have that, and counseling's great for that too. Or just life coaches.
You sit down with a friend if you can't afford the life coach. Maria and I will do brainstorming sessions and end up just talking about, but we could set that intentionally, be like, let's talk about like, what do we want to do this year? And it doesn't have to be connected to the podcast. Like, it doesn't have to be connected to something we already do together. It can just be like, no, it's a new year, or it's halfway through the year. What do we want to do in the next 12 months? What are our dreams and goals? How can we kind of show up and support each other in that? Whether that's just by like talking about it, or that could be really helpful too. If whether you see a counselor or not, whether that's just like out of reach financially, because that can be very expensive. Yes. It's not necessarily like, you don't have to pay a life coach to do something like this. And I was just going to say, like, the yearly reflection and forecast that I do for myself. I used to think that like New Year's resolution, well, I still kind of think New Year's resolutions are a joke, and would have been like, I would have laughed at myself for doing this. But now, like, I look forward to it. Like, I just remembered that I'm going to be doing this. For some reason, I'd forgotten about it. And now I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to looking at my list and be like, okay, I know I didn't accomplish a lot of the things that I wrote down at the beginning of this year. I know that's true. Like, I changed my goals. I reevaluated a lot of things. I filled my time a lot differently than I was anticipating. But then, so my instinct there is to like feel down on myself for that, to be like, oh, well, I didn't do the things I set out to do. But the list isn't like something to keep me accountable. It's just something to understand where I'm at, what I'm valuing, what I'm interested in. And then when I make that that's why the second list is actually the most important part. What did I accomplish this year? That's my favorite part. Because the comparison,
I need to do that.
I recommend it. I think it would be really helpful for you in particular, because you're like me. And then for everyone else,
down on my list.
Good.
Of things
okay.
To do,
and, yeah. I mean, if you're open to sharing, I think swapping those might be really fun.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah. But
I love that.
That's my favorite part of like, I did so much every year. It happens every year. It doesn't matter how shit the year was. I did so many things.
Yeah.
And they maybe were unplanned, but.
And that's why talking about it with a friend too is so great, because if you talk to them about your forecast and then you're talking to them about reflections and stuff, and you're like, oh, like, yeah, I did this and I did this. They may be like, and you did this.
They'll remind you.
They'll remind you. They'll remind you of how fucking awesome you are.
Yeah.
And you got to hear that sometimes too. Like, and I mean, I'm a forgetful person, and I also am really not good at Like, I don't like hype up my own accomplishments at all. It's sort of like, I'm like, oh, I did it. Like, no, nobody noticed. Nobody look. Don't perceive me.
I don't wish to be perceived.
I don't wish to be perceived. So it's nice when someone reminds me that, like, I did a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. And that's what that second list is for me. Is like, hey, at least you're actually kind of great. And look at all the cool stuff you did. Or look at all the really hard stuff you did. Like, it can be anything goes on that list. Anything. Yeah. It can be a hard conversation with a family member or a friend. It can be like, you know what? This is a relationship I don't want to pursue anymore. And I'm going to, I'm just going to take steps to be accountable to myself for that. Like, it can be stuff like that. It can be like, I want to buy a new dresser. It can be, I kind of want to try painting that old shelf I have. Like, I have some random crochet projects on there that I did not accomplish this year.
You just reminded me, I'm supposed to repaint a vase that I broke with my friend, and like, it's been sitting in the garage with the paint beside it for like 4 months.
Amazing.
Just remembered it now when you're talking about it. I'm like, oh, I got some stuff.
Bump that to the 2025 list.
Going on the list.
And it might not happen. Shoot.
I know. Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah. The only thing, speaking of New Year's resolutions, when I looked at mine somewhat recently from last year, because I actually wrote them down. I have done all of them except my writing goal, which was to get this manuscript that I'm working on now done. Oops. And I haven't yet learned to make pie crust, but I sort of was like, that was a soft goal.
We could make pie crust together. I have a really nice pie crust recipe.
Okay. See, it's still possible. It might get bumped to early 2025 because we have like the worst not matching schedules. Right. Like, at some point. Okay. Moving on. Sorry, gang. Everybody's listened to our yap. Okay. So some examples. This is the stuff you're probably here for. Example of one of my 2025 goals, even though I hate kind of saying my goals because then there's this little defiant part of me is like, well, now I'm not going to do it. But I'm going to say it here because this one's going to happen. So my goal is to query my manuscript. So step 1 would be complete the major edits, send it out for feedback. Step 2 would be prepare my query package and an agent list. And step 3 would be apply the feedback to the manuscript before I query. Don't get trigger happy and start querying as soon as I sent it out, because someone's going to message me and be like, hey, did you notice this enormous plot hole that you could drive a semi-truck through? I'd be like, oops, already sent that to all my favorite agents. Great. That's going to go super well for me. Yeah, again, always get feedback. And I will break these into multiple steps. Yeah. But it's a little too overwhelming to start with like a long list of a lot of small tasks. Yeah. Do you know? So I'm going with main goal, the steps, like the chonky sections, and then I will, right now, say for step 1 at the moment, I'm currently reading the manuscript without touching it. This is Elisa's sit on your hands approach, which I have always struggled with. So I put my manuscript on my Kindle, so I could only highlight things that I like, and I make sure that I highlight things I like because I always forget. I wrote a line, I'm like, oh, that was pretty good. I'm like, man, can't believe I wrote that.
Good for you. Oh, girl. That's like more, that's better than putting it, like you could put it on the writing tablet, but then you could write on it.
That was the thing. Yeah. And also, I won't lie, I uploaded it to my tablet and then the font was kind of small and I've just, granny vibes. I need a bigger font. I'm sorry. I used to unfortunately call it dad font because I work for my dad. And so whenever I give him notes and spreadsheets, I have to like make sure I increase the font size, except now I'm doing it also for myself. And it's a lot sooner than I anticipated. Just a granny through and through.
Oh, I love it.
And I should make an eye appointment. I've been putting that off.
Ew. Hate those.
Yeah.
That can go on your 2025 goal list.
I like it. But, yeah.
I was going to say, I'm going to give an example of one of my 12-week plans from a while back, because my current 12-week plan for the last couple of years has been do whatever I can to finish school as soon as possible until further notice. So, that's pretty straightforward. But I've dug up an old 12-week plan from when I was still editing book 2 of the Nymph Keeper series, which I released in 2021. And I was also starting book 3 at the same time. Like, who was that woman? Who was she and where did she go? She went to a lot of therapy and she's, probably healthier for it, I think. But anyway, Yeah, I was just reflecting on what you were talking about, like your big goal broken down into 3 smaller goals and then steps under those. I think our 12-week plan approach has always been kind of like that, which is nice to see. And 12-week plan, for anyone who hates numbers like me, is basically you're just planning 3 months in advance. That's it. That's all. It's great. So the one I have here is from 2020, 2021-ish. August, September, October. I have a few steps under each month for what I'm trying to do. But for August, the main goal was to finish edits on book 2 of The Nymph Keepers and read the thing aloud to myself to get through some like typos and copy edits. Step 2 was to send that to Maria one more time for copy edits. And then step 3 was to make set aside, make a little bit of writing progress on book 3. And then I have a step 4, which is reevaluate. How far did I get with those things? Because I'm giving space and grace for myself to not accomplish them if shit happens, because it does.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I need to do that more now. I'm just noticing I was really smart back then. Where did that brain cell go?
I mean, like, past me can be impressive sometimes. That's me reading my manuscript. I'm like, I'll read a page and be like, oh girl, what is that? And then 3 pages later, I'm like, what a good line.
Right?
I
did that. Best feeling ever.
That is a good feeling.
Yeah, and then my September was 3 steps. I was finalizing the cover and prepping book 2 for publishing. I was beginning to work on edits for a different draft that I'm still working on. And I wanted to make more progress on book 3. I didn't write down the reevaluate step in that month, but I think like that one stands as well. I would like, how much progress did I make on book 3? Reevaluate. Did I make any? If not, timeline gets pushed. Okay. And then October my goal was to publish book 2 and make it a Halloween special. I wanted it published by October 31st. I wrote that down. I wanted to finish edits on that other project I was starting. And that was ambitious.
Yeah.
And then
there's always a section of it that's too ambitious.
Yeah. And you can see it in retrospect of like, why did I think I could do that? And why did I write that down?
Really high expectations of ourselves.
Right? Yep. I wanted to publish a book, finish editing a book, and make progress on a new book in a single month. Who am I?
Child's play. Oh.
And now we are in December 2024. I promised a number of people that I would start querying back in September when I was starting full-time school. I'm a fucking idiot. Who am I?
Yes, you know what? That's me. That was me last year with my goals. I was like, I'm going to get this done and this done, completely forgetting that for the first time ever, my horse show season started in February instead of April. Right. And then I showed all the way until the end of September. I was like, why am I so tired? Why didn't I get to any of my writing projects this summer? Like, I don't know. Because you were at horse shows for 2 weeks at a time, and then you went to work to catch up for 2 weeks, and then you went to 2 weeks of horse show. Like, that was a very privileged summer I had, but I did not get anything else done. And like now I know that about me.
I think
I'm like, if you're gonna do the horse thing that frequently, you're not gonna get it right. Like, it's just not gonna happen.
I think this is my takeaway. I have a takeaway from this that I am just realizing now, that reevaluate step underneath my main goal is the most important part.
Yes.
Because that's where you check in and be realistic with yourself. I didn't accomplish my goal or the steps that I wanted to accomplish in the time frame that I wanted. Why? And be really honest about that. Did life happen?
Yeah.
Did life get in the way? Was I too busy? If the answer is yes, pat on the back. You made it through that season. Okay, let's try this again. Can we set goals a little bit more realistically this time? Do we have a little more downtime to play with this time? But that reevaluate step only works if you are being honest with yourself. Because if you're saying, I'm stupid, why didn't I get that done? Like, who am I? I'm a failure and all of that crap. It's time.
So you're saying I can't do that when I do this step. I have to actually.
You're not allowed.
Be realistic. No.
And if you start doing it anyway, you have to book a therapy appointment. That's the rule.
Yes, you know what? I think this is one of the other things, like I said, see how far you have come. One of the other things that you can work into your goal list, if you're someone like me who struggles with like a lot of negative self-talk, is throw in some of the stuff you're good at.
Yeah.
We're not very good at being self-aware, but what we're good at, it'll feel better. And you can remind yourself of that, in June when you're looking at your goal list and you're like, I don't think I've done that much. And then there's a little note there like, yeah, but when you do the work, it's so good. Something like that. It doesn't, whatever works for you.
Yeah,
right?
That's a good point.
Yeah. And goal setting too is it's a personal thing. Some people might want to keep it to themselves. So you don't have to share it. You can totally do this list on your own. You can password protect it. No one needs to see it. You can share it on your social media if you want.
You can burn it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You should burn it at the end of the year.
Yeah, keep it.
I did it. You're done. But yeah, I think announcing it on your social media too is a choice. Don't feel like you have to, because I think we're all going to see a lot of that in January, especially. And don't feel bad if you don't want to share yours. Like I will sometimes share like a couple goals, but I find I don't like the pressure of people that I don't actually know in real life messaging me to see if I did the thing. Like maybe that's fun for other people, but for me, that just reminds me that I have like failed at doing that thing. Yeah,
I do not need that in my life.
Don't need that. I'm already reminding myself. Okay. So so that's something too. Do what works for you and your mental health. And that is the tea on goal setting. We hope you enjoyed this section of our podcast. Remember to rate and review wherever you get your shows. If you want more of the Tea Grannies, join our Patreon and follow us on our socials at the Tea Grannies Podcast. Happy writing.